Hey there, All Things MSP crew. Welcome back to another conversation here at Kaseya Connect Global. I am here with somebody that I have known for quite a while. We go back to my GFI Max days, if I remember correctly, sir.
Yes, indeed.
So, Joshua Liberman, you have kind of gotten to a place in this journey where we all hope to get to, where you sold your MSP, and you did it in a way that you're pretty happy about it.
Well, first of all, thanks. I did. It feels like I managed to retire undefeated, and that was really my goal. I felt like there's a lot of countervailing forces when it comes to being an MSP right now. There's a lot of challenges, more vectors of threat, and it's just a very difficult. Well, I'm talking to people that know this, so I'll stop. But I did manage to do so, yes.
Well, but it is a genuine reason, as the industry changes and there becomes more risk, there are some people who, especially when they're kind of on the fence of whether they want to get ready to retire or not, are kind of in a place where they want to make that decision. I was in that place. Now I wasn't ready to retire, obviously, in 2013, but ransomware had gotten to the point where, honestly, I just didn't want to mess with it.
Yeah, I feel like it's possible that I got out right at peak MSP, at least for me. I'm not telling you that there's not a lot more excitement to come, but part of the deal was I felt like I had charted a pretty good path. I started in 90 with a part-time business, and in 95 started Net Sciences, kind of rolled over the little vest pocket show into a full business. And I did 30 years of it. And I'd been through so many transitions, for those that remember, from Novell to Microsoft, and before that even Lantastic to Novell to Microsoft.
Yep.
And I went, Internet happened, which there are many people born since then that don't know there wasn't a pre-Internet time. And then there was cloud, and then there was work from anywhere, wireless connectivity, COVID, which was really the WFA period. And I felt like I'd seen so many transitions that as things started to continue to accelerate, I started to get tired, to be honest with you, of the changes more than anything.
And I think we are getting to a place now with AI, and you and I talked about it a little bit before we started recording, about how it could very well be a menace. But I actually think that the thing that is guaranteed with AI is that it's going to speed everything up. Yeah,
it's an accelerated disruption of virtually every industry. I'm pretty sure stonemasons are going to be pretty solid for a while.
Yeah.
And it's entirely possible we'll still have particle physicists, but the large space in between is a little more questionable. Threat or menace. I'm sure known by a lot of folks for being wary of all the changes that are happening, and I think that there'll be a significant period of time when everybody like us is playing catch up, and we're spending more time defending people from AI-driven attacks than we get to spend enabling people to improve their business and their lives.
Absolutely. So what we really wanted to talk about today, though, is how you got to a place where you were able to sell your MSP and get what you wanted for it.
Yeah, and I'm going to fall back on saying that with most things in my life, and certainly most things in IT in my life, I got lucky. I worked really, really hard a lot, struck out a few times, and then I won't say if I hit it out of the park, but I certainly got an inside the park home run out of it. It worked out very well. The numbers and the conditions around the sale have been just great.
Congratulations. So
thank you.
You've stayed on for a little while, right?
Yeah, I'm on this year in a consulting or advisory capacity, which largely means to manage relationships and make sure that the differences between our stacks and processes get massaged in such a way that nothing falls through the cracks.
Right. Now, obviously, for you to get the value out of your MSP that you did, you had to do some things leading up to that. What were some of the contributing factors that you feel played a part in getting the multiple that you wanted?
for whatever reason, we had become very MSP-centric, and I was not an early adopter. In 2009-10, I started using the tools, PSA and RMM and others, and started practicing it. But I really didn't become a full MSP to 2015, so certainly not an early adopter, but I was very committed. We haven't had a non-MSP client in that time. So that means that our MRR percentages were higher than most MSPs 10 years ago and maybe still higher. Ultimately, we moved up to what I consider the optimal, which is 67 to 75% or 67 to 80% in my case. You always want projects because they bring in new customers, right? And you always want to control the products at your sites, and that means selling infrastructure, switches, firewalls, APs, whatever. But those numbers were good, and at the same time was real disciplined financially, and we were always a high EBITDA kind of firm and right at the top, and I'm just persnickety, or my wife says OCD, but I'm detail-oriented.
Right.
So I knew those numbers, and I understood what they meant, and I was able to grasp them. And I'm good at telling stories, and a lot of what you do when you sell your business is you tell stories. True stories, hopefully.
Yeah, that's true. True stories, because they're going to find out in the math one way or the other.
Yeah.
So what I hear is that having standards that you want to try to meet in terms of whether it's your mix of MRR versus project work, or it's having just knowing your financial numbers well enough that you have that grasp on the business to know whether it's doing well or not doing well, so that you can make the changes you need to make.
Well, and also having a long runway. I mean, I started on the project about 5 years ago, so the process therefore took about 4 years. And I had time to hone processes. We were already highly homogeneous. We had the same switching and firewalls and BCDR, infrastructure of all sorts. We had the same subnet architecture, the same tools, all of them at all of our places. So that, for one thing, makes it easier for a company that buys you to absorb you, but it also means that you can hone your processes. So that stuff was going already. I just kind of turned the final fine screws to really hone that in, and I went from 97% homogeneous to 100. And we just got lucky again in a lot of ways, but I had a plan and I executed on it step by step, and I had little things like we went from 1 to 2 year contracts, and I made sure that when I went to market the first time, which was really 22, I started at the beginning of a 2-year cycle. And when that didn't happen in 23, we had a couple of almost, fell apart. And then in 24, I went back out and actually started a business-to-business listing site, and that was transformational. I went out in February of 24, and on day 1 I had 6 responses, and on week 2 or week 1 I had another 12, and I was overwhelmed. I mean, it was just too much. So I had options. I had plans, and details worked out pretty well, and that meant that I could choose based not on anything but a cultural fit and a belief that the folks that were buying it were going to do right by my staff and by my clients.
So how important was it, and I think you just answered it with that, how important was it that you had that many options?
Well, so the numbers really, I think I misspoke when I said 6 and 12 more, 6 and 6 more. There were 12 offers, or 12 interested parties. I knew 10 of them. I knew 8 of them well enough to have their cell number in the contacts. We spoke, and about 6 to 8 of them were serious. Spoke with 6 by Zoom, met 4. I had enough options that I didn't have to choose by price. I got to choose by mix, because if I wanted to, there would have been bidding. People would have been competitive.
Right.
And ultimately, I selected somebody who wasn't the top priced offer, but over time, because of other factors, they became the best. And they were very flexible, and I got to finish out the year of 2025 owning the business, my 30th year. And there's a lot of factors, and everything's a negotiation and variable. And that was, I intellectually grasped that, but the visceral experience of it It was really something. And I can't give a lot of details, but the numbers worked great. The multiples, the immediate payout, all these other things just fell into place.
Yeah, and that's really good. And I think it's great that you are looking for not just the most valuable offer to you financially, but also what was going to be best for everybody involved.
Well, I wanted to make sure that, as I said, my staff had the option to go forward, and they have, and it's been a few months, and they're there, so that's good.
Yeah.
That includes my wife. Makes me happy that she's happy there. The other important detail for me was that they were going to succeed. The clients were going to be served, and the business was going to succeed. And oftentimes when people ask me, what do you see as your job right now this year? I see it as making sure that they got as good a deal as I got.
Yeah, and I think that is really the ideal way to look at this type of transition, because I've seen so many situations where the old owner leaves, even if they've stayed on for a little while, and it just falls apart because the new owners don't have that relationship with the existing clients.
And it's hard for us because I had clients. I started in 90 with my first business. I had one that had been with me since then. I had at least 2 others that were in the 25-plus year range, and most of them were over 10, which either means I'm great retention or I'm terrible at new client acquisition. It was a little both. But you're right, there is that, and I still get the occasional reach out by email or cell, but not because they're upset, just because they're used to me. And over time, I believe, it's early days. The renewal season is March next year, so maybe a year from now I'll have a different story, but I don't think so. I feel like they're doing well, and they also are everything marketing that I was not. I was a very slow guy about this. I did the math, and our compound annual growth rate for 30 years was about 6.5% to 7%, which would be spectacular if we were a nation, not so much as an MSP, but for me it allowed me to pick the people I wanted to work with and for,
right,
and to rid myself of those that didn't fit those parameters whenever I needed to.
Which is very important, I think, in this business, because it's so much a relationship business, and if you can't have that relationship, you're not going to do the best job for them because they're not going to allow you. And so when you find that synergy, it really does make a difference.
I'm sure most people hearing this know at some level that what we're selling more than anything is trust. People believe that we're going to be worth what we charge, and we're going to keep them moving forward. We're going to protect them at the same time we enable them to do the things they should do and protect them from their worst impulses and from people with worse impulses. But the reality is we sell some products and we have some services, but we're selling trust. And that is a heavy burden. You got to live up to that. And there's a duty, there's an honor that you have to live by. And I wanted to find somebody else that I thought would behave that way. And it's not that easy.
Yeah, well, it's really great to hear a true win, because there are some MSP horror stories out there.
I hear them too. And again, I don't want to claim that, oh my God, we nailed it. I think so. It's still a little early, and I'm not casting aspersions on these folks. They're doing good. What I'm saying is that the industry, the economy, all these other factors are out there in the next 8 months that could derail the train. But as best I can tell, we're on the tracks, and things are working wonderful. And I'm happy, proud, and lucky.
Well, and I think a lot of that luck had to do with the hard work that you put behind it, sir.
I'm willing to accept that, and I'm hoping you're right. I'm also willing to say, I got lucky. Could be.
Well, I think I've watched you enough over the years to know that you work hard at just about everything you do.
I got that from my father. He is one of those guys that would have stayed up all night to study for a urine test. So I definitely inherited that.
All right. So, Josh, thanks so much for being here. Really do appreciate it. It's been great, just being friends with you, all this time. And
thanks, sir.
I hope I see you around. I imagine you're going to stick around for a while.
My plans they extend into next year. I've been doing some work here and there for vendor speaking, writing,
Okay.
being a booth babe, if you could imagine. And I also will have some, with some of the industry organizations, I'll have a footprint too into the next couple of years.
Awesome.
I'm trying not to see out beyond that for now.
Well, I know you have a lot to share still, so
Thanks.
I think we appreciate everything that you do and everything that you're going to do.
Thanks, Eric. It's cool to be here.
Yeah, thank you.